it's a completely different scene from the blaze that was pretty much catching everybody's attention. You might notice now it looks like snow, kind of some ice. That's actually called foam. And they had to get it brought in. They had some other motors and they needed more of it. And it came in from Krotz Springs and Port Allen. And then they were able to get it on the scene and spray it. It looked like snow was coming on down. And it really did a great job of capturing the blaze that, as you mentioned, Liz, did in fact spread to a second one of those tankers there, and that's what really made this thing spread as far as some of the grass area around this oil storage space that we're at right now. So much so that Brad Jaffon, the chief criminal deputy of Point Comfort Sheriff's Office, on his walkie-talkie, we were able to hear, hey, it caught a blaze on one of the second tankers. Everyone moved back, get the units out. So it was pretty active and pretty intense here not too long ago, and they were finally able to get that foam that Brandon's kind of showing you on the lens right now. So that's kind of the initial update. It seems like right when you guys tuned in, this thing finally got settled down. But another important piece of this conversation is if Brandon wants to pan a little bit more to the left and show you some of the white poles sticking out of the ground kind of to the left of those railroad tracks. They're all along this grass space here on both sides of the track, and that marks gas lines. Right this is here from some of the sheriff members who were speaking to them earlier, the fire district members, was that if this thing spread, then you're looking at possibly this fire continuing and maybe a bigger explosion. So it looks like this thing's been battled for the last several hours. We went live with you guys earlier, around close to about 9:30 a.m. and now we're more than an hour later from that. So it seems like there can be a bow put on top of this explosion, rather this oil battery storage fire here in Livonia along Highway 190. The other concern was that both ways of Highway 190, they're able to go openly and freely, but when they needed to go get the foam, you had to kind of block off some of the road and allow those big units and fire trucks to go on out freely. So that kind of slowed up traffic just a little bit. But now, as you can see behind us, it seems like this thing's finally been put out. So hopefully we're able to kind of wrap this thing up here. So from Livonia over in here at Point Comfort Parish, we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
We have video of capture.
Yeah, right now it definitely seems like the sheriff's office here, so it's Point Comfort Sheriff's present here. The fire trucks were Point Comfort Fire District number 2. We saw Fire District number 4 as well. Critical care over my right shoulder. We haven't seen anyone needing critical attention, but just in case, as a backup, obviously. But there are several of these sheriff and fire district units here. I'm counting along this right side of the roadway at least, 10 to 15 different units. Brandon's kind of doing a good job showing you what we're working with here. But that's just on this side of the roadway. Then if you look kind of over at the scene, there's, at my count, probably about 4 or 5 fire trucks. But again, not too long ago, about 15, 20 minutes ago, it was a very reactive situation. Hey, we got to move these guys back right now. This thing's spreading so much so that it caught fire on the grass, where a lot of these firemen were kind of standing and taking this thing. That's where they were trying to put it out from. So the foam has made the biggest difference right now. But yes, certainly a large number present from the sheriff's office of Point Comfort, as well as different fire district representatives. Now you have the capability. You're good down here, bro. No good? Yeah. I haven't been near that. The only thing we need, you take the card. You have a second card. The only thing we possibly would definitely get an interview with him, like that's the final update. But I don't. How we doing?
What's up, dog? Working on it. What's happening?
Hey there, we got nothing? All right. Yeah, why don't we get this here real quick?
So can I, y'all want me to say it's not ready?
Yeah.
Can I give you some information first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to give you the agency.
Yeah. Why don't we start there? The different agencies that are here. Can we write those down?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a U.S. Fire Pump,
Sorry, what was that? One more time.
U.S. Fire Pump,
U.S. Fire Pump.
Communications.
Placid Refinery,
Can you say that again? I'm gonna get closer.
Placid Refinery.
Yeah, that's where they're bringing in the water from.
Well-
One of the places.
That's the phone.
The phone, that's the phone.
They work to bring foam in, but good luck. Good luck. In refinery,
Yeah.
Prod Springs.
Prod
They,
Springs.
they brought in the foam to put the fire in. Put the fire out.
Okay.
You think it's out now?
Our main concern was, see that third tank,
Yeah.
is if that caught on fire, the two tan ones actually have product that is very flammable, so we didn't want those to be
Oh, wow.
Well, those two here, wastewater, I don't know if they told you earlier, it's a wastewater byproduct, and it was, that can burn. We just don't want, the other ones.
Yeah.
And a couple times it got close to us because we was coming over the side, and we had to kind of move our trucks out of the way.
That foam's some good stuff, man.
Well, the problem is that we don't carry enough for
Yeah.
something like this, so refineries have it on hand.
Got it.
So they have 1,000-gallon tank full of foam, whereas we might carry 10
Yeah.
10 to 20 gallons in the truck. So what they did is they just overwhelmed it with foam and put it
Yeah.
out.
It's awesome.
Okay. So U.S. Fire Pumps, Placid Refinery, Gillette Prod Springs, right?
And that's the thing, that's D-E-L-U-K.
D-E-L-E-K. I just looked it up. Yeah.
They changed names every
Okay.
couple years.
Any of the other?
So, and we also, fire departments, we had, we're supposed to be fire want to be fire district 3, want to be fire district 2, and St. Landry, I think they're fire district 1, which is Prod Springs. I'm really not sure. I think there's one on District 1 and 5. I'm not sure about West Baton Rouge.
Got it.
I can send you something later.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything on camera
You
about
can
it?
ask me something if you need something.
Checking.
Yeah, get up here. Photo. Oh wow. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's the foam going right there?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you want to text it to yourself or something, or
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
1 second.
Checking.
Do one more thing on my end here. Okay.
Alright, let's see.
You want him to hold your mic?
Yeah, why don't I can do that now? Sure.
I can just get over there.
yeah, just hit share or this and send it to Marvin.
Sure, why don't we do your email out now? Why don't you if you go to your email, I think we could just put everyone's email on. That'd probably be the best way to do it. You want to put the channel 2 email in there?
Okay. You might have missed that we had the that kind of plastic and US content. And we had St. Andrew, District 1, Front Springs, supposed to be 5 District 3, supposed to be 5 District 2, and we're supposed to be 5 District 4.
And it was definitely lightning strike.
Probably. This is probably the third or fourth one that we've had in the last 5 or 10 years. So we're kind of familiar with these kind of fires. Unfortunately.
You want me to hold it? Let him. Will you hold it?
I got it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
So how?
Go ahead and say your first and last name.
Yeah, we
and
need
spell it
to
out.
get your name. For the record.
Paul Pentonat,
Spell it, please.
Paul Pinsonat.
And your position?
Fire chief. District, Point Fire District 4.
When did you all kind of feel the need to move on to the foam product, as learning that the water wasn't kind of
So when they arrived on scene, you had 2 storage tanks, and the tanks are mostly water with some residual oil, and the amount of foam that we carry is not enough. So we just had to keep it off of the other tanks until we could get some partners to come out here, supply the foam, enough foam for us to put the fire out. So it was just us kind of like holding the fire until we could get our resources.
Can you share the information you said about if the third tanker had caught fire, the concern that would have presented?
So there was a 3rd tank on fire. Oh, wait, let me rephrase that. We had 2 tanks on fire. The 3rd tank was being impinged on, and if that tank would have caught, there were 2 that actually were full of product. Whereas these 3 are residual oil and water. So we weren't too concerned about them. We were concerned about the 2 that were full of oil. So that was our main concern. We were just trying to keep the exposure.
And did the scene escalate? It looked like when the 2nd tanker caught fire, we were hearing on walkie-talkies that you needed units to back out, and the fire was visibly seen on the grass. Was there a moment where it escalated?
So these tanks normally have a containment levee around them, and it's only enough for the product that's inside. So with us putting thousands of gallons of water on this fire, we're putting more water than this levee could contain. So we were having some water come over, and it had product in it, and it had fire in it. So we didn't want that product that was on fire coming over that levee. So we had to move the trucks before we started getting in a situation where fire was going to the trucks.
And just kind of talk about how, just elaborate again of how, since early this morning, you had to just kind of let it burn and keep it from spreading, because there's nothing you can really do with the water component of this.
So these tanks being in the middle of a field, little sweat.
Okay. You just caught a fire.
A lot of sweat. So these tanks being in the middle of the field, we weren't too concerned about the public. We were worried about the 2 tanks that actually had product in them. The 3 tanks that we had, they could burn, but we didn't want to get into the 3rd tank and then having a pretty good fire that may spread more than what this levee can contain.
And y'all had to actively move fire trucks in and out to go refill.
Yes, right. So there are no hydrants. Obviously we're in a rural area. There are no hydrants. So we had a tanker relay where they were going down to the closest hydrant and bringing water in. And so this last thing that we did with the foam, that's what we had to do. We had to get all of our water ready. The foam that came from the plant from Krotz Springs, they brought that 1,000 gallons of foam. So we had to have enough water ready in case we needed to flow, 5 or 10 minutes. And actually, if you saw, we flowed, a minute or 2, they would put the fire out. So mainly it was just us keeping the fire in check until we had the right resources to put the fire out.
Can you speak about the concern about the pipelines? You got all these white markers out here, these poles that we were hearing a little bit earlier that, if the fire had spread, you could be looking at something really, movable and contagious, just given, that you got pipes underneath these tracks.
That could be a problem, but most of these pipelines, as you can see, are on this side of the railroad tracks. So that railroad track would probably keep most of that product. It would have to be bigger tanks than this, So that was, those weren't too much of concern. The only concern we may have had is that we have Union Pacific shut down, which we're going to have to open them up in a few minutes. But, if something went under where, they have an overpass or bridge and there's fire under it, that's not good for the train. So that's the only concern we had was railroad.
And just kind of what you have to say about your firefighters. They were addressing every single time it kind of went off the
Yes.
fire, onto the grass. They really penetrated where it needed.
Right, so a couple of times it got pretty hot. These guys are trained, well trained. We have a mix of full-time, part-time, and volunteers, So, what do we want to say about that, about them doing that?
That's the great work that they did.
Yes, so, we give it to the volunteers that came out. We had volunteers from Krotz Springs, come out and, all working together. Every incident we have is teamwork, whether it's the sheriff's office out here, it's Livonia Police Department, it's the, all the fire departments, the industry. It's everybody coming together to take care of the incident.
And what time did that call come in this morning?
Approximately 6 o'clock. It might have been about 6:02 or something, but approximately 6 o'clock.
How long to get it fully under control?
Now. So as you can see, it's kind of smoldering now, but I don't know when you got here, but when we put the foam on it, whenever y'all saw the foam going on it, we would get and that's what we had to wait for. We had to wait for that, when we had all the resources right and put everything on it. So we were just keeping it in check until we could do that.
That foam really does the trick.
It does. If you apply it right, and that's why we waited. Our little bit of foam wasn't doing much. So.
Is there any chance it could reignite?
Yes, as always, that chance. Because the thing is with a foam blanket, so you're putting the foam over the top of the fire and you're trying to smother it, we're keeping the oxygen, and it's somewhat cooling the fire. So at any time you have a break in that, wind could come, and if there's any other little fire, because you'll see sometimes we're putting the foam blanket, if somebody disturbs it, then it could reignite. So there's always that chance. But again, we're not, we're in a rural area where this is at, so we're not too much worried about the public.
So there will be monitoring for a little bit just to make sure it
But
doesn't go back up.
the owner of this company will have to come out and do cleanup and all that. So
Yeah, what does that recovery effort kind of look like? Have you guys dealt with fires on tankers like this before? What kind of are the next steps?
Yes, so this is probably our 3rd or 4th one in the last maybe 5-6 years that actually lightning has struck it, and we get there and the top of it's blown off. You can see the top on the ground in pieces. So it's just that this one is probably the biggest one, and we had a lot of trouble putting it out because of where I guess maybe because of how much product was in it. Usually we've been able to come here and a little bit of foam that we have, we can cool it and put it out. But this one, and plus this is the first one that we had where it's been closer to the actual, tanks full of not say good product, but product. Usually just a waste one that we were putting out. So we kind of have a little experience in these. So that's kind of how we knew that we just had to keep it in check until we had enough foam.
So is that like a common worry that lightning will strike these metal containers?
Well, these are actually fiberglass.
Okay.
So in about 2 weeks, they'll have another one here, and that's what we've seen in the past. You know, and that's why we're not. Let's say that the risk versus reward. There's not a lot of reward in risking, and that's why we're not, you know, rushing in there and trying to put it out to save something or somebody, because they're gonna have another tank here in a couple weeks. You know, so it's a fiberglass tank. Apparently, lightning hits it, and I guess the amount of energy that lightning's put out in heat is heating it up and blowing the top off. You know, I don't know the exact science, but that's just theory and what we've seen. You know, so.
And no injuries among any firefighters?
No injuries. And that's you know, that was our goal. You know, take care of the situation and not have any injuries. So.
Good.
Anything else?
All right.
Good. No,
Cool.
thank you, man.
All right.
Thank you so
I
much,
took
Chief.
this
We
from
appreciate
you.
it.
Okay.
Locked, so
Did
I
y'all
don't-
you send it
Do
to
you want to
everybody?
put your email into that?
Okay.
It locked before I was able to, you know.
Hanging out.
We have a live shot. We have a live shot.
See you. All right.